So let me go ahead and show you some of my intercropping I'm doing here at the Hillside Gardens and show you just how I'm intercropping and getting the most out of my limited space. All right, so first things first, I just planted this baby raspberry. Now this is a golden raspberry. It's just planted as basically a bare root. It's just now starting to grow out. There was another one planted next to it that I think it just didn't make it, so I need to replace that one. However, as these are in the infant and immature stage, what I'm planting here is a row of carrots. Look, a double row of carrots right here, along with this raspberry. So using this space here to grow the carrots while the raspberry is established is a definitely a wise use of your space. Okay, now so moving along here, now at one time this was a strawberry bed, but I guess this one decided to survive, and these birds are absolutely going crazy. It's about to rain here pretty soon, so they're all making a bunch of noise. But check it out, another strawberry here. My neighbor's side of the fence there are some more strawberries over there, but look right here. This is a pepper, okay? This is a cayenne, I believe, or another kind of hot pepper I grew from seed. So as the carrots kind of mature and get taken out, this pepper is going to start taking over this space, the vertical and horizontal, if you will. So it's going to kind of fill in this gap here. So, you know, just think about the succession of your season. Plant early stuff early, and if you have a plant that's going to take a long time to mature, like a pepper plant or a tomato plant or eggplant or even some kind of squash or zucchini, you can cram stuff in and plant them, and they will actually survive and harvest before the other space is needed by the other plants. Now this here, these are some canna lilies. These actually came up through the compost of all things last year, and they grew. They did fine. There's the red flower typical canna lily, but I actually will cut the leaves off and use these as a mulch in the summertime. So it's more of a growing in place cut in a chop and drop cover crop. Moving along here, this is a row of arugula, okay? Now arugula is a fast growing plant. It's gonna bolt when it gets hot, so I'm gonna start harvesting these as baby leaves very, very soon. But like I mentioned before, look, a pepper plant here, and a pepper plant here amongst the strawberry. But as the arugula is actually harvested and taken out, which will be very, very soon, these pepper plants will have free reign to basically just grow and fill in that space. Moving here, this is some spinach, and it's really basically past its prime. As you can tell right here, it is starting to bolt, so this spinach needs to be pulled out very, very soon, if not today, quite honestly. I might be able to salvage some leaves from it, but I actually had some very, very neglected tomato plants that were basically going to be thrown out by someone who grew them. I said, hey, I'll rescue them. And look, I stuck them down in there. They're actually recovering. I thought they may not even survive, but you know what? You have some spinach plants like this that are going to be taken out. You know they're going to bolt. They're going to be pulled out. So just cut them out. You know, you don't have to dig and till and plow this whole area up. Just dig a nice little spot and replace potential tomato plant amongst the spinach. And the spinach will actually protect it, as it is a small immature plant. It's going to start helping add a little bit of shade, conserve some moisture, and then over time, as the spinach is pulled out, this tomato hopefully will be healthy, have its roots established, and will then be able to just produce and occupy this space. So that being said, there are many, many things you can do. You can interplant. This list would go on and on and on forever. However, well, this is a bed here of just perpetual spinach. This will not be taken out. This will actually do fine through the summertime. But as I mentioned here, I mean, look, so over here, these are some little containers that were being thrown out. So I kind of repurposed them, and they are doing quite well. These are a bed of radishes. Now I had some peas here growing, and well, as you can tell, the deer really like peas. So those kind of got nipped off, but you know what? You can plant these as kind of a trap crop. So they have basically eaten the peas and left everything else alone. So good for them. Now here's some onions growing amongst some lettuce. That I think this lettuce here is actually starting to bolt. And there was some lettuce in this bed here. But case in point, this giant hydrangea bush, okay, in the early spring, late winter, when I planted this winter lettuce and these peas and everything, this was not casting any shade. This was an open area. So as this lettuce is actually going to be harvested very soon, pull it out, I actually can start growing some other stuff in here. So keep that kind of succession plant growing. But you know, remember, you know, what you planted, where it's going to cast shade, where it's going to eventually grow to, because you don't want to start putting a lot of plants in an area that's going to get shaded out really quickly. So let me take you up to the garden and show you a couple more things I have interplanted, and just talk about ways you can help maximize space in your limited urban gardens. So this bed here should give you an example of intercropping A lot of different things and a lot of different reasons. So as you can tell, this is brand new soil. A lot of this was bag soil. Hadn't had a chance to really build this up with compost. So these peppers that I grew from seed are doing not the best. They're kind of yellowed out. And that's just what happens basically the first year, especially if you're using bag soil, guys. You're gonna need to build up your soil for years with compost and things like that. As you can see, the other beds I'll show you, the soil is much, much better and the plants are thriving. However, that being said, this is a peanut. Okay, just a standard peanut I grew from seed, and peanuts will actually help fix nitrogen. They are a legume. So I'm going to use this as a peanut, as a cover crop. I'm going to chop it down and it's going to help build the soil. Okay, so as I'm building soil in place and fixing nitrogen with this peanut, hopefully some of the nutrient deficiencies of these peppers that are planted along the rows here will actually start improving over time. Now I've put some more peppers and more peanuts here, and there's another small pepper back there. Those are jalapenos. These here are bell peppers that I grew from seed. Like I mentioned, some reds, yellows, and oranges. They're not doing quite well. However, at the other end of the bed, if I can take you over here, now these are artichokes. If you've never seen artichokes grow, they're a member of the thistle family, and they are just look really cool as just as plants, but check that out. So these guys are actually doing very well on this end of the bed. So maybe the soil requirements of, maybe lower nitrogen, things like that, maybe they don't need as much of the fertility as the peppers do, or else maybe the peppers just need longer to get their roots established. But these, like I said, these artichokes doing amazing. So peppers, artichokes, again, some more peanuts here in the corner. So if you've never seen peanuts grow before, that's what they look like, the typical pea family leaf. So moving along here to the next bed. Now this one's been established for years, guys. Soil here is fantastic. So this is thyme, the culinary herb. I've used it all the time in cooking. I cut some the other day. It's doing fantastic. Along this row here, now these are radishes. However, these do not produce a root that you would eat, or a bulb, or whatever you want to call it. These are actually grown for the seed pods that you actually can pickle and eat them as a as kind of a snack there. So mixing herbs, I got some peppers here as well. Now this pepper is going to grow. There's another pepper here. It's kind of getting a little bit shaded out by these radishes, but the radishes should be out fairly soon. And then, plenty of room for these peppers to take over that space and fill in the gap. You can tell this is an asparagus. I think I grew this last year as a little seedling and just kind of planted it here with all the intentions in the world of digging it up and transplanting it to my asparagus bed, but I think I missed one. Obviously I missed one, and here it is growing. So it's just going to live here until the fall, when I'll dig it up and transplant it to a more permanent home. Now another idea of intercropping here, guys. Now, these are tomatoes. These are a Italian heirloom Roma style tomato, which I'm going to let grow on the ground. So they're going to fill this whole space in here of this raised bed. Meanwhile, in the back of the row, as you can see on these trellises, now these are peas. These are the Oregon sugar pod, and have some actually in this container here as well next to the bed. I've been picking these as pea shoots, which are delicious. So definitely grow peas not only just for the pods, but for the delicious shoots as well. So as the peas, like I mentioned several times in this video so far, as the temperatures rise, they are going to bolt. They're going to go, get bitter. They're going to be taken out. So these peas are actually fixing nitrogen. They're filling the vertical space here. Once they're fully produced, all their pods, I'm going to cut those down, use them as a chop and drop for this tomato bed, and keep the process going, guys. So it's always a cycle, okay? It's always a cycle going forward. Now, showing you this bed here. Now, these tall plants here, these are actually sunchokes. Okay, they're going to get super tall, put a lot of flowers, and produce edible tubers. But below this, look at all this carpet of flowers. Now, these are actually edible flowers that I've actually been harvesting, and a couple of local restaurants, higher end restaurants, like to buy these, and they will actually use them as a garnish on some of their spring entrees, etc., etc. So definitely this is a twofold, that I'm actually keeping the understory of this growing with the edible flowers, the pansies and the violas. Okay, you can see some of the pansies down here in the sunchoke jungle. But as these sunchokes get bigger and bigger and bigger, they're gonna just basically shade these guys out eventually. But as I mentioned again and again, these plants are gonna start suffering the edible flowers of violas and things in the dead heat of summer. Okay, so when the sunflowers, the sunchokes are taking over, they're a member of the sunflower family, I believe. they're going to start shading out. They're going to fill this bed up with their vertical growth. Meanwhile, the lower growth will be probably either just let to kind of turn itself in, maybe reseed and self-seed, and then maybe in the fall get a second flush of all these beautiful edible flowers as I'm pulling the sunchokes out, or as they slowly die in their life cycle before they go dormant for the fall and harvesting more bulbs. So there you go, guys. Keep the cycle going. Always keep planting in succession. Not very interesting, but I'll show you this right here. I actually went to visit one of my friends, and they had an old garlic plant that was just basically gone to seed. So I salvaged the little bulbules, the little seed heads of this garlic. No idea what variety it is, but I did plant it, and some of them have sprouted. So I'm going to try to keep this going. You see right here, it's a little bit of red on the stem. I'm not sure if that's indicative of what the variety is, but there's kind of starting to notice that at a couple places. So we'll see what that actually ends up being years from now whenever I decide that it's time to harvest it. But you know, that's just a little fun experiment, just show you that. Mustard greens, and nice thick carpet of mustard greens next to a row of fingerling potatoes. Okay, yes, I know potato plants are going to get big. They need to be hilled up. They need managed in a certain way. Well, these mustard greens, as they can probably take more heat than a lot of the other super plants that are prone to bolting. I'll be harvesting these very soon. Some nice sauteed mustard greens for dinner. But you know, the potatoes, they're going to fill in this void back here. They're going to be around for a long time. So as things move out, there'll be more room for the potatoes to mature and be hilled up and just kind of fill in the majority of this bed. Down here are these are yellow Uzbek carrots from Baker Creek Heirloom. I grew these last year, guys. Now, I'm not a carrot person, but I actually really enjoyed these carrots. They were really mild, actually very sweet, and they grow well in this climate, which I can't say about a lot of varieties for some reason whatsoever. You know, it's just one of those things. I've never done well with carrots, but if you don't really like the strong orange, carrot flavor, try these yellow carrots. But yes, another idea of intercropping. Again, start your carrots super early. As they're pulled out, you'll have room to either put, maybe I might even put a tomato or a pepper or something else here, more heat and sun loving, as the carrots are actually pulled out. And then you gotta think in succession, guys. So as this potato plants mature and are removed, what are you gonna plant back there? Could you plant some beans? Could you plant something else? Whatever, some herbs, maybe some flowers, whatever you wanna do. But think about, as something comes out, what is going to replace it? Okay, so intercropping, planting in succession, will help you maximize all the yield you possibly can in an urban garden setting. So I'm going to walk you over to another part of the garden and kind of show you what else is going on over there on the other side of that fence. So one side note on intercropping. Now this, I'm fairly certain, is a cucumber or a squash or something similar to that, but as you can tell, this is a flower border. Okay, more like a wild border here. However, this was not planted on purpose. So sometimes nature will intercrop for you. This had to have come through the compost, as I did not plant this vegetable here amongst the flowers, but nothing wrong with that. So sometimes Mother Nature just intercrops for you. Let me show you another example of another surprise intercropping provided by the compost. So for this example of intercropping, can you see which one of these things does not belong here? Nope, those are flowers, tiger lilies, more tiger lilies. I forget the name of this, but it's a big yellow flower. It's a perennial. Wait, what is that? Another, I want to say zucchini, squash, something. I don't know, guys. I didn't plant this here. That's growing in the compost. However, look how amazingly healthy this plant is. It's kind of starting to vine out right here. My luck, it's going to be a giant pumpkin or something, and it's just going to take over. But anyhow, sometimes, you just get lucky, and your garden will intercrop for you without you even having to try. So I may let this go, I may not, depending how big it gets. But there you go, guys. Intercrop everywhere. Why not? All right, so let's go ahead and start wrapping up this tour. I know it's getting a bit long-winded, but you can see these are tomatoes with the tomato cages around them, and they're going to be doing wonderful with the west. They're actually getting a lot of the evening sun, direct sun. But because that being said, right down here, now these are some baby jalapenos I had just from seed. They're really tiny. However, like I mentioned, the evening sun is going to come from this direction over here, and it's going to hit the tomatoes. Now the tomatoes are then going to cast shade and help protect and nurture this little jalapeno. And as the tomatoes get taller, you kind of remove the lower leaves. You know how that goes from the tomatoes. So then therefore it's going to have room for the jalapenos. So it's going to find this little niche, okay? Now these jalapenos are, I think, the early variety. They don't get very big at all, is why I put them there. So I think they maybe get 18 inches tops. So plenty of room to kind of fit in here and fill this little void of where the tomatoes are growing. Now, again, these are massive monster. These are not the fingerling. These are the Kennebec variety potatoes. They're massive, massive plants. However, right here along the edge, beans. Okay, so you can plant beans outside of your potatoes like that. So I'm maximizing this little walkway space. Okay, so on one side I have tomatoes with little baby jalapenos. Again, another baby jalapeno. On the other side of the pathway, we have beans. Now hopefully it's going to fill in, not the entire pathway, but it's going to help kind of shade this out and prevent you know, a lot of weed growth. It's going to help prevent moisture loss, etc., as it kind of fills in the canopy. Using every little bit of space is what you guys need to do. Now there, look, basil plant over here, some parsley. Why leave unused space in your garden, guys? Everything doesn't need to be in these nice pretty little rows. It's actually very inefficient, quite honestly. And just to kind of show you this, now these are some blueberries that were not doing well at all. So I transplanted them. They probably do need some more fertilizer, as I'm trying to see a little bit of the leaves. Yeah, that's usually a lack of acid in the soil, so I need to get probably some aluminum sulfate on that today. And some more potatoes, beans, and I want to say some peppers mixed in as well. So there you go, guys. Maximizing your space in an urban setting is the way to just basically produce the maximum amount. Okay, so think about everything in succession. Think about how one plant is out, what plant is going to take its place. Okay, are you going to plant perennials? Are you going to plant plants that need a long season versus a short season? So if you live in my climate, zone 6B, 7A, here in eastern United States, we're probably going to get until about middle to late October before we start getting into the frost. But even that being said, you can grow a lot of plants that can tolerate frost, like your brassicas and kales, carrots, even some things like that. So do plan on keeping a full succession of plants growing in your garden. Guys, you'll maximize all your possible potential harvest and have bountiful harvest from your backyard, no matter how big or how small it may be. All right, guys, so here's some intercropping and garden notes from the Hillside Gardener here in May 2023. Bye-bye.